Hello,
Hello.
everybody. Guess what my name is, Jordan?
I think it's Micah.
Guess what your name is, Jordan?
Might be Jordan.
We are Jordan and Micah from the Macaw lineage. Well, I guess I'm from the
You
Macaw
are.
lineage, and then you married into the lineage.
Yeah.
And we have a podcast. It's called the Macaw Podcast Universe. You are now listening to said podcast.
And you might be listening to this to understand that we are here to prove people wrong when they say sequels are never better than the originals.
And here we are. It has been clamored about. People have told us, you gotta do it, you gotta do it, you gotta do Fast and Furious. There are 10 movies in the series proper, or in the series, and then in the series proper, there's 9. And today, we are finally watching and talking about, well, we already watched it, F9, the last of the saga so far.
Yes.
Now, I look to, do you recall what the name of that character in Bambi is, the skunk? Is that Flower or Petunia?
I think it's Flower. I'll look it up.
Flower. Well, no, we'll just stick with Flower.
I would like to know.
So Flower has an interesting little tidbit of information. And that information is, he says, if you can't, my mother always said, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. So folks, thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this episode on Fast 9. Because if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. This movie sucks hard.
Yes, as from what I understand, most FF fans agree with.
Yeah.
To which I ask, how many times do I have to talk to a person who is such a big fan of this series for them time and time again to say, yeah, the movie's not good. Yeah, that one's not very good either.
I know.
I know. It's just, I love this series so much. No, you're right. That one's not good.
It's very odd.
I don't think anyone likes this series. I think people have been tricked somehow. And I still hold that they're going to continue making movies until someone asks them to stop doing it.
Right.
The collective majority.
Yeah.
And I think this series just operates under because we have so many movies in the world, so many come out in a year, not all of them can be good. And we'd have gotten into a zone in our lifetime where we have so many great things.
Yeah.
Which separates people into like, that's the worst thing I've ever seen, that's the best thing I've ever seen, blah, 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 blah. When like, let's just let things be good and mediocre.
Yeah.
And this series definitely takes up the mantle of, we're just going to be okay.
Yeah.
And we're going to like do our thing, make our money. Once you guys leave the theater, you will have forgotten about what's happened.
Right.
The story will not make sense. But by the time the next one comes out, you'll think, I think I usually have fun when I see those movies.
Yeah.
That's what Fast and Furious is.
Yeah, well, and I just, before, we're going to go over the movie. And if you like these movies, that's fine. Great. Mm-hmm. We still love you. You're still welcome here. Opinions, everybody's got them, and that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. It's what makes us unique. But what I'm losing my train of thought, but I just don't, after watching this movie, I was like, I actually don't really understand how people like these.
I don't know, man. I've gotten little to nothing to say at this point.
But I think we shoot ourselves in the foot because everyone we know that likes them says, yeah, I turn off my brain and watch them. Which sometimes you got to do that.
I'm taking that to me now, though, that people actually are falling asleep.
Yeah, because I think what we're shooting ourselves in the foot for is we have to then talk about it for an hour to 2 hours.
Yeah, that's why it's so frustrating. But I get that, turning your brain off, all that stuff. But I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's just okay. It's okay. I don't think I don't know. This series sucks. It's just very mediocre, and I think people will never stop seeing them because of all the things I just said.
Well, so before we get into it, I do want to tease this. There are a couple of things about this movie that I did really like, and I will be hitting those. So I did not just go completely like, I hate this, I'm not going to allow it any credit. I think there's a couple of interesting things in here. But the thing that I originally was trying to say when I lost my train of thought is we try our best to go in clean to any movie, and we try to find the good in it. And I think up to this point, I've done a pretty good job myself of, for the most part... No. You're not letting me finish. For the most part, on the series we cover, I'm pretty able to go in clean. But I think that this is the first series where I officially like hit a wall, and everything past 8, which is only 2 movies, I couldn't give Hobbs and Shaw or this movie any credit.
This F9 was the best worst one though. Like,
oh no, this is my least favorite by like 100.
Yeah, I just think, and maybe it's broken me down some, especially people would know if they listen to Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah,
but I like 4 and 6 were just straight up uninteresting, boring.
Yeah.
That this one did not. I did not get that complete despair of this will never end.
I got that for this one.
Okay.
I got that for this one. So let's talk about who made it. It is once again directed by Justin Lin, who, you know what? I guess more power to you, bud.
Uh-huh.
I don't like your movies, except for Fast 5. That's the only movie of yours I like. The story is by Justin Lin, and Daniel Casey on the screenplay. And then also there's a story by credit from Alfredo Botello. The cinematography is by Stephen Windon, again. The music is by Brian Tyler, again. I mean, at least these guys are sticking together.
I don't know.
The movie came out last year, June 25th, 2021. The budget of the movie is 200 to 225. Couldn't get a distinct number on that. And domestically, it makes 173 million. Worldwide, it makes 721.
A lot of money, especially for a pandemic.
Yeah, and this is one of the first like really big movies in the pandemic.
When people that I like follow or something, we're going to see this.
Yeah.
And at that point, I had not seen any of them.
Yeah.
It was like I felt so happy for them.
Yeah.
For people who were so excited to be able to see that movie.
Well, and when I saw like the reviews for the movie, because the reviews are pretty bad on this movie, and again, it's like I think everyone we've talked to, they say things like, "Oh yeah, F9 goes too far," or "F9 is, yeah, I like most of them, but F9's not that good." So I think this movie's even more bad because people were really excited to go to the theaters. They go to the theaters. And I kind of had blinders on for like 6 months of going back to the theaters where I was like, yeah, that movie was good. That movie's... So for someone to go in, not having gone to the theaters for like a year, and then come out and be like, I didn't like that one. That's how bad this one is.
Yeah, that's bad.
This one's not good. It does have a pretty good poster, though. I like the poster with the smoke in the background. So Chris Morgan, who's written episodes 4 through 8 and Hobbs and Shaw, went off to write Hobbs and Shaw.
Okay.
Before they wrote this, he had to write it.
Okay.
Or I mean, he was writing Hobbs and Shaw, so he couldn't write this one, which I thought would be maybe refreshing.
My ears perked up when you said Chris Morgan did not write this, and if you hadn't have told me,
crap.
I would have assumed he had written this.
But
it was bad.
His scripts are better. Because
I don't know if they're better.
All of this flashback stuff is some of the worst writing I've ever seen in a movie.
Insane, but I don't think he would have done any better.
I just don't know if he would have done that story.
Yeah,
I hope
it wouldn't have been better though.
No, I mean that's true. I mean Hobbs and Shaw.
Watch 4 through Hobbs and Shaw and tell me that he would do a better job.
Well, yeah, I did, and I will not be repeating watching those. So this was gonna be released in 2019. Before the pandemic even hits. But then it was pushed back to make room for Hobbs and Shaw. And then No Time to Die was going to come out around the same time. So they were like, let's push it. And then they got caught in the COVID cycle.
Yes.
And then I have one more note.
Okay.
Because it's there's not that much exciting stuff about this movie. Next year will be the first of Fast 10 Part 1. So they're filming the big one. It feels like there's an air of this is a finale, but
we know it's not.
I also like scrolled through and there's like planned spin-offs and stuff like that. So I don't think it is a finale, but maybe it's like a finale of the series proper.
Yeah.
Perchance. I would also like to know at the end of this episode, I'm going to be editing in an episode of the first time I ever podcasted, which was with my old buddy Andrew Backus. We had this show called We All Have Tongues with Peter and Peter. I've gotten a lot better at podcasting, but in the first episode we ever did, which we recorded in 2016 and came out in 2017, I had only seen Tokyo Drift, and I pitched how in the 10th Fast and Furious movie they should go to space. And I was so satisfied when they went to space in this movie because I was like, yes, it's F9, but this is the 10th movie in the series. And I said that this should happen in the year of 2016. So I felt very good about that.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So please go ahead.
Not many new people in this. Of course, John Cena is new, but we have covered him. Finn Cole plays young Jacob. He is also in Peaky Blinders, Animal Kingdom, Slaughterhouse Rules, and a lot of other things. And then Anna Sawai, did not pronounce that correctly, plays Elle, the girl that Han saved. She's in Ninja Assassin.
She was my favorite performance of the movie.
Because she was in it the least?
No, that scene where she was doing stuff was cool. And
sure.
I felt like
I thought
she
the
was
hand-to-hand combat in this movie was good.
That scene was great.
Choreographed.
That scene was great.
Yeah.
There are some things to like about this movie. But anyway, folks, when we were watching the movie, I was commenting on who my favorite performances were. And she was my number one, with Ludacris and Tyrese as 2 and 3.
Cool.
And then I don't really care about the other performances in this movie.
Wow, she's born in 1992.
Wow.
So yeah, she's a ninja assassin, Giri, Haji, Shogun. That's about it.
Cool.
And then I gotta find him.
And you could tell with her that I loved was like, oh, this girl like knows martial arts and stuff. Like this is not a stunt. I mean, I'm sure there's some stunt doubling, but it's like, oh, this is an actual like martial artist that they hired.
Vinny Bennett plays young Dom. He is in Ghost in the Shell, the remake, obviously.
Oh yeah.
The Shannara Chronicles. Good grief, not a Peanuts thing, believe it or not. Kura, The Gulf, and just a ton of TV shows. Like TV shows you wouldn't believe.
Okay.
And then Jack Toretto is played by J.D. Pardo. Dada.
Yeah.
He is in Breaking Dawn.
Really?
Part
Who is
2.
he in Breaking Dawn?
Oh, he's definitely a werewolf.
Okay.
I don't know. His name is Nayul, and I know I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but you look at him and he's definitely a werewolf.
Yeah.
I think. Because he's big.
Yeah.
He's also in a Cinderella story, so I've seen him in a couple things.
Okay. Is that the Hilary Duff movie?
With Chad Michael Murphy? Yes, of course.
Okay.
And then he's in Revolution, A Girl Like Me, The Contractor, blah, blah, blah. Michael Rooker's in this movie, who we've also covered.
Oh yeah, he'd be in my number 4 performance.
No way, man. I mean, whatever. He can do no wrong. If you're attached to James Gunn, you can't really do anything wrong in our book. But I did not get that character at all.
Oh no,
it was a waste of a character.
No. That's what, because this series, it kind of, I would say in the case of this series, it suffers from the kind of Marvel problem where it's like characters can come up so often. Marvel, I think that's a strength. I don't think that's quite a strength in this series.
Marvel usually has some like backstory to back it up. Like, they were in this issue. Right.
It's like, but for him, I'm kind of like, well, I hope he shows up in 10 and does something cool. Because he is kind of, I mean, it's a great actor to hire and then to...
It's crazy. I haven't seen him in no makeup in so long. He looked weird.
Right.
And then just lastly, Thu Ørsted Rasmussen. didn't pronounce that correctly. It's a Danish name.
Okay.
He plays what you described as the knockoff Billy Magnuson.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because No Time to Die was supposed to come out around the same time. 100% they called Billy Magnuson first, and he turned down the role. 100%, no doubt in my mind. And then they just got someone who looks kind of like Billy Magnuson.
So, like, yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying.
Do you not agree?
Yeah. I am just so relieved for him that he wouldn't have been in this movie because I think I could see him in the series.
Oh yeah.
I love him so much. He's so good. So this guy is in Sunday Dead End. Wow, that is a crazy Swedish name of something I can't pronounce. So a lot of Swedish and Danish things. That's about it.
Okay.
And that's about who we have. We also are graced with the presences. The presences?
The presence.
Well, but it's plural. Of Lucas Black from Tokyo Drift.
Yeah.
And Shad Moss, a.k.a. Bow Wow, which was just crazy.
And the other guy. He was in Tokyo Drift, too.
I don't remember that guy. Let's see if I can find him.
When I saw his face, I was like, oh, they brought that guy back? Which, I guess this goes against what I just said. It was nice to see them. And when you see that they're working on jet propulsion, you're like, okay, they're doing it. They're going to go to space.
Jason Tobin.
And he is in Tokyo Drift, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Good memory.
Thank you. Tokyo Drift, even though I didn't like that movie, it turns out I think that one's probably like my fourth favorite, maybe?
Yeah. It's up there.
I mean,
it might be third favorite for me, considering everything.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of this episode, we're going to be ranking our personal of these. So stay tuned for that. But let's start on this movie. And I would be interested. I think Jordan maybe wouldn't be as interested because she will be like, the book is closed. But if you're an FF fan and you liked this movie, I would be curious as to what your reasoning is. And legitimately, not like I'm going to come attack you. I would like to know why you like this movie. So go to the show notes in our descriptions and join our Facebook group. And I'll let anybody in. It's a private group, but I let anybody in. And then post about why you thought this movie was good. Or why it, like, hits. Maybe I missed something, you know? I would like to know that. So the movie starts, and it's 1989. And
we're at the racetrack.
And so
right off the bat, it looked good.
Right off the bat, it looks good.
Do you think that all of the flashbacks, the way the coloring and stuff, like, looked better than the rest of the movie?
Now that you mention it, it absolutely did.
I think it did.
Oh my gosh!
There was like a grainy quality to it.
It looked like it was shot on film.
Yeah, it was a little. It
probably wasn't, but it looked like it.
No, but it was very.
It had a vibe.
Yeah,
whereas the rest of the movie looks like
the whole point
other
is
movies,
so that you know that it's a flashback.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it looked better than the rest of the movie.
Yeah, you're right.
But as the movie goes, you are pulling your hair out because it's like half of this movie is a flashback.
Oh yeah.
And the only thing it does is develop character. And Dom has been developed.
Yeah.
As far as he goes. We don't need more flashbacks.
Well, so this, I think, firmly places the series, and maybe this is why people like it, into soap opera. Like the baby really hits it in Fate of the Furious. But in this movie, it's like, no, these are not action movies. These are not superhero movies. These are soap operas that have a huge budget. And maybe that's why people like them. Like, they like the weird family dynamics that don't really make sense when you think about them too hard. But at the same time, it's like, well, actually, they wrote it in such a way that it technically makes sense, even though it's very silly.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why people like
these.
So
with this, what we see here is Dom's dad die that we've been told a couple times throughout the series. I always imagined Dom was a kid for some reason, although I don't think he ever said.
Yeah, I don't think he ever did, but I did because that's formative. You know,
it's fine. Yeah. And then this is also a little bit later in the movie when they do another flashback. They show Dom beating that guy within an inch of his life, which is all the way from the first movie, which is okay. It's just the whole thing is such lazy storytelling, as the series continues to do for the most part.
It's a thing that we're going to talk a lot about in our next series. But there is this thing in blockbuster filmmaking and just like expanding franchises where like we cannot like studios no longer allow us to live in a world where we're allowed to fill in the blanks. So like for example, I'm very excited about this show, but there's an Obi-Wan Kenobi show that's coming out. I'm going to watch it. I'm probably going to love it. And I'm not saying it's going to be bad. I'm excited. It looks fantastic. But it's like, do I need a show that bridges the gap between episode 3 and 4? No. I don't need to know what happened. I can like make that up in my head, and that's part of the fun of fantasy. And so like Dom telling this story in episode 1 of this series, it's like I don't need to see that story have happened. And then they go, but what we're going to do is we're going to add a brother into it. And
what if people always have been waiting for this whole series?
John Cena and Vin Diesel to be brothers.
Well, to see his dad die. Everyone's wanted to see it. And have it be this huge controversy where Dom thinks his brother killed him, which has never been mentioned before.
Yeah.
Because it didn't exist until this movie.
Right.
And, I mean, we haven't even gotten to the craziest part.
Yeah.
But
sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Nope.
Before we move on from this scene where his dad is racing, I want to point out 2 things that I actually thought were awesome about it. One, we have not seen in this entire series like a standard pro race where it's just a circle, and that was like weirdly very refreshing.
Oh, okay.
And I thought that was cool. 2, they did something that I've been harping on for a while that I'm tired of people doing, and they did what I asked them to do. They did not de-age Vin Diesel or John Cena. They hired different actors to be them. Funny enough, I think it works against the movie because they're in it so long that you're just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to see this guy.
They're in it so much of this freaking movie.
Yeah, but that's more a problem of the script.
But I think that John Cena was filming Suicide Squad at the same time. Or getting ready, like busy with that stuff, because I swear this guy shot for like 2 weeks. I know at the end of the movie he's in it for a lot near the end, but most of the movie he does nothing but walk around and talk to people, and it's not even that much. It's crazy how little of the movie he's in. And this is another classic thing, and it's kind of an action movie thing. Like, the people need something to do, so they're trying to stop some insert terrorist thing in this movie.
Yeah.
But seriously, by the end of the movie, and I know this was on me, but it's like I actually do not know what they're trying to do.
Yeah. And you just said it. It was on you. I was tracking with it.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't think it was good, but it's also
but it doesn't have to be good.
Yeah, the golden standard for me on a out-and-out action movie are the Mission Impossible movies. And those, I feel, particularly the last 2, or the last 3, actually, have, like, fantastic plots, fantastic characters, and the villains have motives that I can understand.
Well, that's what I think is the big issue that's missing from pretty much every movie.
Yeah.
Here is we don't really understand what the villain wants.
Yeah.
Other than being insert bad guy kind of thing.
Because, like, so John Cena's motive in this movie is, I don't want to be outshadowed by my brother. And so
we haven't seen. I mean, how this movie has been 20 years since this series has been a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there has been no mention of a brother, obviously because he didn't exist until this movie.
Right.
But, just it's kind of fun to think of, where it's like, I would say you probably were living your own life happily because your brother kicked you out.
Yeah. Well, and it's this weird thing that I find this charming about the series. It's this funny thing where like the last 4 movies have had to juggle. Well, actually, we don't want to be race movies anymore. We want to be international spy movies. And I like that about the series, and I like that they have to like honor their own, like they're stuck in their own mythology. I like that because it's very stupid, but kind of it almost serves as like a commentary on franchise filmmaking, but I know it's not.
Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean?
At this point, other movies probably are commentaries on these movies, but in that way that you're speaking. But it's just, let's just remember that Ludacris's character in the second movie, all he was doing was setting up games.
Yeah.
And he really didn't have any more skill sets besides being a really good business person.
Yeah.
He goes to space.
In this movie.
He's talking about math a lot.
So we can hop around. We're at the end of the series, right? I had heard from multiple people that they go too far in F9. And I asked one of our loyal listeners and a patron, which if you are not signed up for Patreon, folks, you gotta do it. You get an extra episode every month, and it rules. And we have a lot of fun over there. And if we get to 50 patrons, we're going to cover every single Pixar movie exclusively on Patreon. No, not if, when we get to 50 patrons. Let's go. Pretty please. Just a cup of coffee.
Come on, go.
And it was confirmed through him, and I'm just going to assume that most people feel this way, that going to space was a little too far.
That was the part that was too far for people?
I think it may have been.
It
was for this person.
That was perfectly okay that they did that.
But what I'm going to say is I think that rules.
Yeah.
I think what is too far is the entire brother story.
No, that's also not
That
it.
was the straw for me.
It's too far because they just would not stop talking about it.
Yeah.
Which is really annoying.
Okay, what is the
Sorry
real
if I'm
one?
being very heated right now.
No, this is great.
They went too far with the Han stuff. That's what was too far.
That's what it was.
They resurrected a man from a burning, blown up car, and all they said was, interesting magic trick. That's egregious.
I almost spit-taked. The thing that is so weird about that is I was expecting... So, okay, let's talk about Han. When he died in episode 3, I had already seen a teaser trailer for F9 that shows him like walk into that spot, and they're like, Han? And so I knew this whole time that Han is alive.
Uh-huh.
But you did not.
Well, this is how I found out.
Yes.
We get a lot of our movies that we watch for the podcast from the library because it is it is Blockbuster these days.
Yep.
And the movie had been sitting on our little table for a while as we're leading up to watching it, and in the living room where I work out. And as I'm working out, I just look over, and I see the cover of the movie, and I happen to see Han's face on it.
Uh-huh.
And not only was it his face, he was older, and his hair was different, conveying, yes, he is whatever age he is in that picture.
Uh-huh.
And then I picked up the movie, paused my workout.
I didn't know you paused your workout.
Went to see Micah and said, he's in this movie? Han is in this movie? And you were like, oh, so you saw it?
Yeah. Yes,
I saw it. And I wasn't looking forward to it. Just let people die.
So she says that, then we watch the movie, and this whole time we've been watching the series, I've been like, it doesn't make sense that he died and came back, but it's Fast and Furious, kind of who cares?
Yeah.
They're probably going to provide, like a 5-minute, really over-the-top sequence that shows how he, had like a fake body or an animatronic or something very weird
But it would, I mean, yes. Yeah, go ahead.
And so I thought like they're going to show us and then we'll be like, that was so stupid, but kind of whatever. But instead of doing that, like you said, it shows Deckard Shaw going to blow it up, and then it cuts to Mr. Nobody standing there with Han, and then it cuts back to the car that shows Han like going like as he's clearing. It blows up, then it cuts back to Mr. Nobody and Han, and he just says, "It's a pretty interesting magic trick you got there." And he's like, "Yeah." That's it.
And didn't they say that Deckard was in on it? Like Shaw had already been working for Mr. Nobody
so they've
at that point,
absolved him of everything.
Which also just totally takes everything away from 7.
Yeah.
Because he is the bad guy of 7.
Well, and the other thing it does is at the end of this movie, there's like a post-credit scene where it shows Deckard like punch in this bag, and there's a guy inside of it. And then his doorbell rings, and he goes to the door, and Han is there. And they play it with like this music of like, oh my gosh, these two guys just met. This is gonna be crazy.
Maybe we missed that he wasn't in on it.
No, he was. He said it. Because you even asked me, you said, did he say that he was in on it? And
maybe this is what it is.
well, let me finish my thought on
Fine.
this. They play it up like it's this big confrontation, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, it's not a big confrontation. Han was in on this, Mr. Nobody was in on this, and Deckard was in on this. It's not, there's no conflict there.
But this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What if they did say that, but what if they also mentioned and we missed it, or they neglected to mention, and it should have been inferred, that Deckard was doing something for Nobody, but he didn't know that he wasn't actually killing somebody?
Well, none of that is in this movie.
No. But that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, they because I paid close attention because I wanted to know how he survived. And I was like, I paid more attention in that scene than any other scene.
It's crazy, too. Let's just remember that in Tokyo Drift, when we were introduced to Han, he is a Drift King master.
Yeah.
And he is in on, like, drug dealing stuff. Like he does shady stuff with that guy.
Yeah.
And, but when they're explaining what's been happening to Han since we all thought he was dead, there's a scene with him and Nobody. And Nobody is saying that Giselle has been working for him the whole time, too. And she was the best. And I want you to work for me now because if she can trust anybody, that means I can trust them, too.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, dumb. And then then cut to he's doing some job for Nobody that has to do with the whole sphere thing in this movie.
Yeah.
Where like he is now just an undercover agent, and it's like this guy just all he did was drift some cars one time.
I know.
And he taught a guy to drift cars, and they became best friends. That's sweet. But I guess he also became some secret spy.
Well, and I think this proves my theory that the whole reason Justin Lin makes these movies is so that at some point it is like canon amongst FF fans that Tokyo Drift is actually one of the best movies.
I mean,
and
he's
frankly,
proven that to me.
He's proven it to me, but not because of the story choices, more because of the quality of the movies that follow Tokyo Drift.
Uh-huh.
But I will insert, if you're a new listener, Fast 5 rules and Furious 7 rocks.
Uh-huh.
The rest are, well, we've discussed them. Go back to our catalog.
Uh-huh.
So Dom's on a farm with little baby Brian.
And Letty. They're living a quiet life off the grid. They don't even have phones.
No.
And Ludacris.
Tyrese.
Roman.
And Cypher?
Ramsey.
Ramsey.
No, Cypher is Charlize.
Oh, yeah.
Show up. And they got a job. Or, we got a job to do. And they show them a video of Nobody's an SOS. And it's like, quick, help, do this thing. This thing's happening. It's bad.
Yeah. But luckily, Dom is able to scrub the video and see that the famous Toretto cross.
And enhances the Toretto cross.
Yeah. So he's like, that's my brother.
And
okay, I'll do it.
Mike and I were really nervous for about 20 minutes afterward because we were like, wait a second. Is John Cena supposed to be his dad? Because.
No, we didn't. I think they treat it kind of like a reveal. At the beginning of the movie, I was thinking he was with his brother. That's what I was thinking, and his brother was in the car.
Okay, I think I did think it was his brother too, but I think pretty quickly we learned that it is his dad.
Yeah.
But I know that in that first scene, I think we do get some cut tos to the brother, but to us, it's like, who is that? We don't know. It's just some guy in the pit crew. So therefore, I wasn't even thinking of that person.
Yeah.
But we're just like, wait, is his brother or is John Cena the guy that was in the car?
And then he survived somehow?
And then I said, you know what? It is, because that's going to somehow make the Han thing okay.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
And
we were just wrong. And we were pretty relieved to be wrong.
Yeah. So then, like, Letty's basically like, hey, Dom, I'm going to go do this, and it sucks that you're not going to help. See ya. She pieces out. And then he realizes it's his brother. Then he shows up. He was just going to abandon his crew, even though he's all about family.
Well, he's a father now. He's got a lot of responsibilities.
Yeah, but they're so very inconsistent and convenient with the family stuff in this series.
Of course.
So then, what he does is they go to this location where it's like pinged that Mr. Nobody was at.
Well, yeah, and where the plane crashed.
Now, here's what I'm going to say. The next 10, 15 minutes of the movie ruled. And I was like, uh-oh, are we going to have to argue why F9 is actually one of the good ones? Because this is cool. They go in, they get this little like semicircle thing.
Half of a sphere thing.
Yeah. And then they're ambushed. And there's this great moment, but it doesn't really have a payoff that I thought was very weird. But like the camera just follows Tyrese for like a couple of minutes. And I was kind of like, what are we doing here?
And then he's surrounded by bad guys, and I'm like, oh, is this when John Cena comes in and saves him? And it's like, who's this jabroni?
Yeah. But it's kind of shot pretty interesting. The action's interesting. And we're just following Tyrese, and I'm like, this is kind of different. I like this. And he gets trapped by all these bad guys, and then he like submachine guns them all, and he's been shot a couple of times, but it's like, okay. And then it goes on, and I'm kind of like, okay, we're sowing some seeds here potentially. This is interesting. They hop in their cars, they're driving away, and then they go, crap, there's a landmine coming up. And then Vin's like, how fast do we have to go? And Ludacris is like, you got to go over 80. And Tyrese goes, my bus tank doesn't even reach 80. So now they're navigating through a landmine, and landmines are exploding. And Michelle Rodriguez is on a motorcycle, which they finally figured out how cool it is to put someone on a motorcycle, not just a car, because they just inherently look cooler. And this sequence is great. This is good action, man. And then it gets to this point where the mines are blowing up and sending Tyrese's bus tank like into this cliff area.
That was suspenseful.
There's a mine under him, and he's lodged above it, and he has to get out of the car and then get away, and it looks like he died. He didn't. Gets away. All of this, I'm like, awesome. This is cool. Even it's very silly, but I mean, this is Fast and Furious. When Dom uses the bridge to like
slingshot themselves
to
the other cliff.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see John Cena's car gets taken by a jet from magnets, which magnets are going to
play
be
a big part of this movie.
movie.
And boy, are they confusing.
Jesse Pinkman would love this movie.
Can you explain that to me? I just forget what that is.
In season 5 of Breaking Bad, they're trying to figure out, the police have acquired a bunch of incriminating information that has like Walter's information on like hard drives or something. I think they got it from Gustavo. It's after Gustavo dies, they take his stuff.
Spoiler, dude.
And they put it in a compound, and then they figure out like, if we have magnets in this U-Haul, we'll go into the police like storage facility, turn it on, and it will then wipe the hard drives, because magnets in hard drives.
Oh,
and then remember they do it, and yeah, it's so good.
I've been saying this for like the past year, like it's time for me to rewatch that show.
Yeah.
And I just haven't done it. And I think part of it, dramas are kind of hard to rewatch for me.
Yeah.
Because the emotional investment.
Well, for me, I've been wanting to rewatch it too, but it strictly has to do with like we're on the last season of Better Call Saul, and by the time this episode comes out, it's already premiering.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of want to get through that and then like start from the beginning and watch the entire series, both series in the movie.
Yeah.
Ugh.
What's Vince gonna do next?
I don't know, man. Hopefully it's not Battle Creek, that show he made with the house guy. So magnets. They then go back to their headquarters or something, and
I don't know. They go to like some bat cave thing, and you just can feel it in your bones that the movie's coming to a screeching halt.
Yeah, I did a pantomime where I pretended like I slammed on the brakes and that I was idling the car, and Jordan just stared at me kind of frustrated, like, what are you doing? And I was trying to say,
loud.
This is the part in the Fast and Furious movies where they don't do anything for 30 minutes.
We have to check in on everybody to make sure everyone's doing okay or where they're at with their character. And there's so many of them, it's boring.
Yeah.
But we do get the part where Roman, Ludacris, and Ramsey are all talking, and Roman is positing that maybe they're superheroes or they're just some kind of like super being because they've had so many near-death experiences and they're still alive.
Yeah.
And Mike and I, our jaws dropped because we were like, really? We're going there. Okay. I guess we're doing this.
Yeah.
But then Ludacris calls him dumb. It was like, man, I don't know if I was prepared for that yet.
Which that conversation would be funnier if there wasn't a movie that came out 2 years earlier in the same series that has a super soldier in it with a serum that gives him superpowers.
Well, I mean, I think that's clearly has to do with written by different people doing it all at different times.
Right.
So it's going to stay in.
But yeah.
Jordana comes in, I think. Jordana comes in at some point. I think right before this or something. And she, it's John Cena's her brother too. So this is her fight too. And I really think she has absolutely not a single thing to do with this movie. And I really think it's because they brought her into this movie so that we can remember Paul Walker.
Yeah.
And it feels like he's kind of there. Yeah. Because other than that, she really doesn't do a single thing. And I often forget that John Cena is also her brother.
Right. Oh yeah, and this gives me another thing, which I suppose could probably be a critique on like Avengers: Infinity War or something as well, which I love, but I think this movie just does it poorly. It's like there are now so many characters that this whole like middle act, like you said, is just like, oh hey, it's you. Oh, hey, it's you. And you're like, can't we do something new with these characters? Instead of them just being like, yeah, it's me again. Hi, how is everybody doing? It's me. I've been doing this for the past 2 years. It's like, let's go forward.
Gosh, I know.
I mean, the big headline problem with this movie, the main issue, is that it is so steeped in its own mythology. That it like loops around on itself. It is a snake eating its own tail of mythology. And it's like, these are street racers who are now spies. Just go forward. You don't have to like honor all these movies. And, just go forward.
It's like they always have to check the boxes of a template for a movie like this, because also in this part of the movie, they're all sitting in front of the computer looking at a giant screen trying to figure out what to do next.
Right.
And it's like, I've seen this for 9 movies.
Yeah.
More or less. Let's just get it going.
Now let's talk about who I think, having seen now the series, is the worst addition to the entire series, which is Charlize Theron as Cypher.
Without a doubt.
They do this thing where they're kind of like, remember Silence of the Lambs and how cool it is that like the bad guy has conversations with people behind glass? And we're like, yeah, I know, but this movie's really ugly and not good, and that movie's really cool and great. So she's like talking behind glass at Bobo Cena and Bobo Billy Magnuson knockoff. And the whole movie, she's like the puppet master, and she's pulling at their strings. And
why is she there? Because she just is like a mastermind, and they're like, my voice broke. That like she can be some kind of intelligent asset. Because they did get her to do computer stuff.
They broke her out so that she could hack in without using the internet into the CIA and find the second piece.
So they broke her out of prison to keep her a prisoner because they don't trust her?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're just using her for that. But really, she's using them because she's the puppet master with the worst haircut I've ever seen in cinematic history.
She's had the 2 worst hairstyles that I've seen in movies. The 2 worst.
Charlize, you're welcome on the pod anytime. I'm a big fan of your career, but you're not good in these movies.
Which they find where the other half of the sphere is, and it's in Edinburgh. So they gotta go across the pond. And the team also finds out that they need to go there, I think, because maybe they're tracking John Cena. I really have no idea.
Yeah.
So eventually we get to Edinburgh.
And then we see a flashback of Dom drag racing his brother.
Oh, that's probably why I can't remember, because there's so many flashbacks.
So many. And he's like, if I beat you, you keep driving. So he beats him because...
So Dom goes to prison for beating up that guy. And once he's let out, the racing scene is raging.
Yeah.
And his brother John Cena seems to be doing great. Jacob is thriving. He's the belle of the ball.
The belle of the ball.
And Dom comes in and, like you said, says if you lose, you have to leave town. If you win, well, we can be a family or something dumb like that. Dom beats him, of course.
No, whoever loses has to leave.
Okay.
Because he finds out that his brother killed his dad.
Yeah. And
so he thinks.
Dom wins by using Nos at the correct time, which he always seems to be really good at.
Yeah.
I'll give that to him.
Yeah.
And his brother has to get out of Dodge.
Went too early. Yep. Went too early. So then we're caught up on that for now until we flash back to it 8 more times. And then they do this thing that is unbelievable to me where, because all of this setting up like Han is still alive is something that's never been set up before. So in this movie, they pretend like it's possible, I guess. So Letty and Jordana, Mia are they're in Tokyo and they're trying to find somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And when they do that, they see this Mexican flag in Tokyo, and Letty looks at this postcard that we've never seen before, and I understand that the wrote this later.
Fine. Dom gives it to her and says, "Someone sent this to me from Tokyo. It's a postcard of Mexico. Maybe this will take you somewhere."
Yeah, and then she like sees a Mexican flag in the random streets of Tokyo, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, this is where he is," because it has a Mexican flag in it.
Yeah,
that is.
I remember what they were like. What's the one thing Han always said? And I actually don't remember what he always said, other than I gotta get back to Tokyo.
Yeah,
but
and it was something he's never said in any of the other movies.
No.
They couldn't even like find some coded thing that he could have said or something.
No.
And also they have one of the worst on-screen dinners that I've seen in a long time, because Mia's picking at her food, just picking at it, and then she takes a bite when it's the camera's not on her. And
I feel like getting noodles, though, I feel like that's a poor choice movie-wise for a thing to eat.
Yeah.
Because you can't eat those in a way that's not distracting.
Yeah.
You are supposed to kind of slurp those buddies.
Yeah.
And therefore, like, how could they eat that, possibly?
Yeah.
Movie-wise. I think they should have gone a different route on the food, personally.
They could have got sushi.
Yeah.
The other thing is, like, I don't know, but I would think that these actors are like they're experienced enough. Set up a camera with coverage, 3 cameras, and just shoot the scene, and then reset, shoot it like 3 times, and you're done. They're good enough, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have never done that before, so I mean,
yeah,
maybe that's just like such a naive thing to say. But it was very distracting. So they go to this house, and then we have the second best scene in the movie, where they're attacked by someone.
I think it's like John Cena guys.
Yeah, Bobo Cena's guys, and
this girl that we've never seen before shows up. I mean, it's her place, assuming where you can assume, and they start fighting, and it's a pretty good combat scene.
Yeah,
you can track it all pretty well.
This was a scene where I was like, did Justin Lin direct this scene? Because this is really good.
Well, I feel like it's just whoever choreographed it did a good job too. But yeah, I know what you mean too.
And then it was so nuts. So like then we get Han, he saves them by sniping people and stuff. Then he comes back and they're back from Tokyo. And this was so crazy, Jordan. You were like so upset with this because Han comes back. And we've had all these flashbacks of Vin and Bobo Cena. And then they go, Han, what happened to you? How did you survive? He does that story we already explained. So it flashed back to him. And then they're like, but who's this girl? And then they do more flashbacks. Mm-hmm. So we have like 3 timelines of flashbacks. Mm-hmm. And it's not even Tenet or something. This is just like, So we find out that Han was on a secret mission with the biosphere, I'm calling it now, for no reason at all. He's getting the biosphere from the people who made it. And then people attack the
girl because she's the key to unlock it.
Well, no, they attack the parents so that they can get the biosphere. They don't know that she's the key.
But yeah. But we
Wait,
find out in the same scene.
I love this movie. And they attack, and then Han's like about to leave with the biosphere, and then he's like, let me save this girl. So he saves her, and then he realizes she's the key, her DNA. And it's just like, what? What?
Do we even see her unlock anything?
I
Like,
don't
how
think
did
so.
they get the ball rolling on that?
They
'Cause she's
probably
captured at
showed
one
it,
point.
but
Yeah.
and Jordan has reached her zenith on this episode too. Then this movie is just introducing characters half the time, because then Helen Mirren's in this for like no reason at all, and I like her in the series, but it's like, come on, like we have got to drive the plot forward.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
And then
John Cena and Dom are like facing off about stuff, and then John Cena's like partner comes in, and all these guns are pointing at Dom, but you made a funny observation where all the guns are also pointed in the direction of the men that have hired them.
They stand behind Dom, so if they shoot Dom,
they're shooting,
and these are high caliber bullets.
Bosses
they're gonna
too.
go right through him, especially if all of them open fire, and it'll kill John Cena and Billy Magnuson too. And so, I mean, that's just like a movie thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's fine. Go ahead.
So Dom, I don't know, he's getting transported. I will admit, I was so distracted on figuring out who the woman was, which happened to be Cardi B, that I actually don't know what happened. And I know that's on me. But pretty much, I mean, like, we all know that Dom's not actually going to be a prisoner to anything.
You know what? I have to actually correct myself, because now I get it.
What?
They were on Dom's side the whole time, so they're actually standing behind Dom.
But shouldn't the people who have quote unquote hired them be like, why are you pointing a gun at me?
Yeah, but I think that the filmmakers messed up, but you can actually write that off pretty quick, and that's because they're on Dom's side.
Fine, whatever.
But Cardi B like takes off her helmet, and she's like,
I'm so confused on why they would put a major pop star in the series
and she's real bad, really bad.
I'm not even listening, because I'm like, is this? Who is this?
We're not very pop assimilated, so you had to immediately like jump on your phone, because we're both like, that's 100% a pop star. I just don't know which one.
It's like you put Justin Bieber in there, and I'm still probably trying to figure out what's happening and not listening to a word that's coming out of his mouth. They probably rely on that, so we don't question them.
Yeah. So then I think they've captured John Cena at this point. No. Then there's Magnet Chase.
So
which
they're in
is
Edinburgh.
not as much fun as it sounds.
So yeah, there's a giant magnet in this truck. Roman and Ludacris are fighting guys. Ramsey has to drive, but she's never driven. So there's humor in that of her being a really bad driver, because she doesn't know what she's doing. But they're following John Cena's partner, and there's magnets. But the magnets don't really make sense sometimes.
Yeah, I think
the physics of it.
I think I just let that go. You have to let that go.
But even later in the movie, way later, you were like, that didn't really make sense.
Yeah, but they let physics go in this series when he jumped over a bridge as Superman.
I know, but like they're turning it on and off and all the time and stuff, and it's like sometimes it only feels like some things react. But then you brought up it definitely the more you turn the dial, the stronger it becomes. So maybe it's that, and it's like fine. I am at the point though where nothing works for me.
Yeah.
I will admit.
I mean, the magnets are a cool addition. I like the magnets. But yeah, sometimes, like on a scientific level, they don't make sense. But also, I mean, who can really make spiders web? You know what I mean?
Spiders.
Huh? But yeah, so they have this big, long sequence. It's okay. We've seen much better in this franchise itself. Not to mention Mission Impossible or something like that. But it's fine. Some of the magnet stuff is cool. Some of it is not that cool. But what happens? Oh, yeah. Before the magnet sequence, Cypher has this monologue where Billy Magnuson 2 walks up to her, and he's like...
They talk about Star Wars.
They talk about Star Wars so much.
So much.
So which is apropos because our next series is Star Wars, so maybe they're setting us up. They knew this was going to happen. Justin Lin's a huge fan, and now he's not going to listen to our podcast anymore. So he like rounds his guys up, and he's like, "I need you to find him, and I don't care what it takes. Get the Millennium Falcon, get Chewbacca if you need to." And you're like, "Okay, interesting, whatever." And then he's talking to Charlize, and he's like, "Hey, I'm Han Solo, right? Like." Or no, I'm Luke. I'm Luke. And she's like, "You really think you're Luke?" And you're going, wait, they're gonna continue with these metaphors? And he's like, "Yeah, I'm Luke. Actually, you know what? I'm Han Solo." And she's like, "You really think you're Han Solo? I think you're Yoda." And I'm going, they're still going with this.
And she says, "You're Yoda because you got a hand up your butt."
Yeah.
And someone's pulling all the strings.
Yeah. And that was completely confounding that's a real conversation.
Unbelievable. Get her out of here.
I know. And what sucks is she's definitely going to be the big baddie of Fast 10.
They love her. They can't get enough.
But, I mean, when is it going to be revealed that she actually has been working with Mr. Nobody the whole time?
I thought it was going to be this movie, seriously.
Yeah. Because there's not allowed to be bad guys in this series. They have to come around at the end. So her and Idris Elba will walk like holding hands into 10.
I mean, he did fall off a cliff, but he did technically
but they'll probably restart him so he can be a good guy.
Yeah.
So another flashback. Okay, they show the explosion again with no explanation, and then I didn't even know that I did this. I wrote Jacob Bobos, even which is his brother. Jacob Bobos comes in, and Dad was going to throw the race. We find that out, and
it went wrong.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I checked out in that scene. I was like, I can't do another flashback. And then, so Jacob tells Dom after they've like ambushed him. He tells him, Dad was going to throw the race. Did you ever think about that? Because we were in financial troubles. And so then Dom fights all these bad guys in this like circle thing.
Like a shaft?
A shaft, yeah. And for some reason he's like,
no, not for some reason. It makes sense.
It makes
him and Letty are running away, and he locks the door behind Letty so that
he's like,
she
I gotta
can
fight
be
all
safe.
These guys.
Well, because they're not going to stop chasing them.
Sure.
It's a movie thing.
I know, it is a movie thing. So then he's fighting them for a while, and then they all break down and like fall into this water pit. And for half a second, I was like, are they really going to like fake kill him so that he can have a triumphant return in 10? Because Fast fans...
I know. I would have been so mad.
Because it's like Fast fans don't even like this movie, so that would be something they wouldn't like, Then he goes down...
But then we get more flashbacks.
And then he has these visions, and I just like thinking about how, like, because his brother told him that, now he has an omniscient view of the past. I mean, he has Arkham Detective Batman mode, so this is not outside the realm of his ability. And he's walking around, and he's like seeing how his dad's on the phone with like lenders or something and owes them money, and then he sees how
it's probably drug stuff.
Sure. And then he sees how his brother was actually helping Dad, and it wasn't a bad thing. And then he like has now learned to forgive his brother. And then he wakes up. Michelle Rodriguez got down there, got into the water, got him out, and put him on a slab. Whatever. That's fine. That's movie magic. Who cares? And then finally, it's like
that's when
big,
I discovered
showdown.
Though that Michelle Rodriguez has got not a thing to do in this movie.
Yeah, go further.
And I think that she doesn't have anything to do in most of the movies, unfortunately. Which it sucks because I really like her. I like Michelle Rodriguez. I even like the character, even though they've done some of the dumbest things to that character.
Right.
But she doesn't have a lot to do. Once they figured out the whole memory loss thing, that was kind of it.
Yeah. Well, she does get to say, like, life is interesting because I get to experience things again or something like that.
But she doesn't do anything.
Yeah, but she gets to say that, which is pretty big. And then they have the big showdown where now it is like, okay, they have to stop this moving semi or something that's uploading to a satellite. And then Ludacris and Tyrese.
They got to go into space, and this is where the Tokyo Drift Bros come in.
Yeah.
And they shoot him into space on like a DeLorean-looking thing.
The space stuff is cool.
I'm into it.
It's like the only cool thing about the last hour of this movie.
Yeah.
And I like that it's Ludacris and Tyrese and no one else because they're fun to watch together, whereas
they have the most to do.
Yeah, most of the characters in this series are not that fun to watch for me. And so I was like, oh, thank goodness it's these guys. And they're up in space.
Their dynamic has worked for me pretty much the whole time.
Yeah. I think there was one movie where I think we had watched so many so quickly, I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're the best part of the series, for sure. Yeah. I mean, even Tyrese, when he was solo in, I guess Ludacris was in Too Fast as well. But like when
they weren't like partners.
Yeah.
Yet.
He was really good in that movie.
He's always been like one of my favorite characters.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, they go into space and like they fail on the ground. And so, or no, they have to like stop it, but for some reason
none of it really matters if they can't destroy the satellite.
Yeah,
because
what they do
on the ground.
Like they can't do this certain thing. And so they're kind of like, okay, we're going to die now. We have to crash into it. And then they crash into it and they drive into it. I like that. I think that's great. And then they like are stuck in an international space station because they mentioned how they had to eat space food for a long time.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun. And if next movie, just have them in space. Just have them in space. And I think they will. Because
I want a hard science fiction. Hard.
Yeah.
Where they're like in another galaxy. They've gone through a wormhole.
Yeah.
It's like interstellar level hard science fiction.
Well, listen to the pitch that I had. I think it still stands as a potential pitch. And actually, I remember I pitched that I think Vin Diesel dies and has visions. And they actually did that in this movie.
No,
I'm realizing.
You didn't say that.
I did. That he has like he like is in heaven and he sees like Paul Walker and sees everybody, which is a different vision than what he had in this movie.
Is this whole thing you're gonna put on here gonna be not nice towards Paul Walker?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I think I was a little flippant with how I said it.
Okay.
But I don't think it was like offensive or anything.
Okay.
But I'll double check.
Okay.
But yeah, I forgot that I had said that he has like visions and then he wakes up on the cruise.
Why don't you write
there.
for this series?
No, yeah, because the thing I say, again, I'm going to put it at the end of the episode, is like Vin like dies, quote unquote, has these visions, and then he wakes up and the whole crew's there and he's on a space station and they're like, we got one more job for you to do as they're flying away. And then the last line of the movie, I said Ludacris says it, but now I think it should be Tyrese, is like you're seeing the spaceship fly away as they're getting ready to go fight a space monster. And then he says, and I thought airplane food was bad. And then it cuts to credits.
Oh, Tyrese would, the Roman character would 100% say that.
So it's crazy how accurate that was. So that'll be after maybe I'll put it before the song. So no, I'll put it after.
So very long, big, epic battle scene where John Cena is in like a really long semi bus thing, trying to get it all to work, his master plan, but then he gets betrayed by his partner, and he goes up on top of the roof of the bus thing to fight the big bad Russian guy, and Dom helps him, of course.
Yeah.
And it's all fine and dandy. It's action. They do a lot of stuff. A lot of magnet stuff.
Yeah.
And then the semi flips over. They flip it, just like they did in The Dark Knight.
Except one was CG and one wasn't.
Well, of course. But they flip the semi, and the thing is still going at like 90 miles per hour for minutes down a freeway. And suddenly, all of a sudden, it's rolling down a hill, and the city is nowhere in sight anymore.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And no one died.
Yeah. Which is all fine, Fast and Furious stuff, but it's very weird.
It's just like it's just sometimes I have to distill that information and say it.
Yeah.
In a very monotone way, because it's like, yes, that did happen.
It's just wild that Justin Lin has had 2 chances after Fast 5 to even get close to the bank vault scene, and none of the sequences he's done have even come close.
Not even close.
The only one that comes close and maybe is better is Furious 7 that James Wan did.
Probably what
with
part
the
of
planes flying down, the cars. I think that might be my favorite
Which
sequence
part?
of the series, where the cars come
Oh,
down.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, yes, I agree.
Yeah.
But
What were you going to say, though?
I was going to say in terms of Justin Lin stuff, but I know he doesn't write the movies, is...
He wrote this one.
Yeah, okay. But part of what makes the bank vault, like what is so good about 5, is they don't work for the government yet.
Yeah.
They're just fugitives.
Yeah.
And that's great.
Yeah.
My biggest issue with the whole series is how much of the police stuff is a thing.
Right.
Let them do their own thing. Let them steal.
But then they have a big family barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows a car pull up, and it's Paul Walker. It's Brian.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't see him. That's kind of nice.
I think it's sweet.
I think that's a sweet thing to add. And then it says F9, and audiences everywhere said no thanks on that one. We're not alone.
But not enough to not make more.
Yeah. So what are your final thoughts on Fast and Furious, Jordan?
It's the worst series I've ever seen. It really is. Last night we were talking about it, and I would rather watch the Fantastic Beasts movies. Part of it is because there are fewer.
There are fewer, yeah.
But both of them make me very mad.
Uh-huh.
But at least Fantastic Beasts has cool creatures.
Yeah. I will say that I was disheartened to find that my predisposed positions that I had on these movies proved to be 100% how I felt about them. And that is not what I wanted to happen. Because before we started these, I was like, I've always thought these are not good. And then when we were watching them, I thought that I was going to get that itch. Because there was a point in my life where I thought, for no reason at all, I was like, oh yeah, Mission Impossible movies are dumb. Then I watched them all, and I was like, no, I love these. And I really thought that was going to happen with these. I actually feel bad again, just like last week.
I don't think you need to feel as bad as you did last
Yeah.
week, because you were in rare form.
I know.
Again, sorry, Ryan.
Yeah, sure. So I hope that you still like us if you like Fast and Furious, because we still like you.
Mm-hmm. Are we ranking?
We're ranking. Do you want to go first?
So I think for me, from least to best.
Okay.
The stuff at the bottom is a little hard for me. I can't tell
too.
if I hated 4 or hated 6 more.
Uh-huh.
What happened in 6?
6, I couldn't tell you if you put a gun to my head.
Yeah, that...
Oh, no, 6 has the airplane hangar scene where Gal Gadot dies, quote unquote, but she'll definitely be back in 10.
I think I hated 4 more.
Yeah.
I think it was a little more boring, so I think it would go 4, 6. And then maybe 2.
4, 6, 2.
And then 1.
4, 6, 2, 1.
And then Tokyo Drift. Wait, no, Hobbs and Shaw.
What about F9?
Oh, I forgot about that movie. I think this is it. I think the bottom can change.
Yeah.
But I think F8 was the worst.
Okay.
I hated. F4, basically right there with it.
Okay.
F6. F9. Hobbs and Shaw. F2. Tokyo Drift. F1. F5. F7.
Okay. Mine's quite a bit different. Very bottom is F9. Then Hobbs and Shaw. Then F4. Then F6. Then Too Fast, Too Furious. Then I'm doing Fate of the Furious because I think that plotline is so laughably bad, it's kind of fun to watch. Even though I think it's worse than like 3 of these movies. That makes sense. I'm going by what I would rather rewatch.
Yeah, I think I would switch 4 and 8.
Yeah.
Because at least the ice,
so boring.
The ice lake scene is like crazy, but The Rock did shoot a torpedo at someone else.
Yeah.
That was cool. So I'm switching that.
Okay. And then my top 4, I'm going to go Tokyo Drift. And then number 3 is the first movie, Fast and Furious. Then Fast 5. and Furious 7.
Our top 4 are the same.
Oh, they are? Okay.
Yeah.
So that is... We did it, everybody! Now, before you leave and before you listen to me foretell of the future of Fast and Furious from 2016, next week we have a little extra bonus episode, a little treat. And then after that, we are jumping full in on Star Wars.
We are going to a galaxy far, far away, far from any existence of a Fast and Furious movie.
Yes. And for those who may be wondering, this is always the rule with any series. We are going by chronological theatrical release date. So we will be starting with A New Hope, going through that trilogy, then episode 1, 2, 3, then the new movies, all in the order in which they came out in theaters. And there's going to be special Patreon episodes that will coincide with those. And I really think I know we always talk about Patreon. We always want more people to join the community because it's fun. But I think this one is going to be extra fun. Like, because we have the movie The Hidden Fortress, which will come out on May the 4th. And that is one of the main inspirations behind Star Wars. So on Wednesday, you'll listen to The Hidden Fortress on Patreon. And then Friday, Star Wars. And then the next month, we're going to be doing a watch-along with the holiday special. And we're going to set up cameras. A camera. It won't be the best camera quality, but it'll be really fun. And then after that, the next month, we're going to do the theatrically released Clone Wars movie. That if you haven't seen it, there is a Jabba the Hutt type character called Zero the Hutt who has a southern accent and is wild.
Zero?
I don't know. But that character is wild. And there's a little baby Jabba the Hutt in that movie too.
You?
Not so much.
Oh.
So that's going to be fun. And we have our Oscar special on there. And then this month it's Speed 2 Cruise Control. So you got to go over there. It's less than a cup of coffee a month. So thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you for going on this journey with us. Sorry for if we have offended or deeply hurt anybody.
Yes, I am sorry about that. We just have
to speak our truths.
Yes, we do. But if you like them, continue to like them. That's fine.
That is so fine.
Yeah. Now, once we click pause on this and end it, I'm going to go to Patrick Willems, my favorite YouTuber, and watch his video on why the Fast and Furious series is good. Because I've been waiting to rewatch it, and I didn't like it. And see, I'm even still trying, folks, to like it. Because I'm going to watch that video right after this.
You spent hours and hours with the series. I think it's okay that you're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah. But we love you guys, and see you later.
Bye.
You have the whole squad together, and they're getting ready to do a heist or whatever it is that they do. And then this man walks into a room, or maybe a woman, I don't know, some famous actor that you are upset that they're in the movie. Someone like, let's say it's the dad from Arrested Development. They hire Jeffrey Tambor, and he comes in. He comes in and he goes, "Hey guys, I'm from the government," and then he says, "You guys have been fast and furious. In fact, you've been too fast, too furious." And he proceeds to name every title of all the movies leading up to it.
That sounds amazing.
In this whole conversation that he's having. You know, he's like, "And what will be the fate of the furious? I couldn't tell you." All this stuff. And he proceeds to tell them that the government has accidentally, or as with the trend is with movies, the Russians, either one, have accidentally made this monster that's slowly growing. And it's getting bigger and bigger, and they need their help to stop this monster. And so this monster, throughout the movie, gets bigger and bigger. It starts as like a small, like, cell size, and it keeps multiplying and multiplying, and it's getting all these eyes and tentacles, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and it starts wreaking havoc on cities. And then there's this character, sort of like Q in James Bond, that works on their cars because he works for the military, and he keeps telling them, they're doing stuff trying to stop it, and it's not really working. But he keeps telling them, he's like, I've installed some new stuff, and if you don't ever press that button in your car, he's like, unless you have to. But he doesn't tell them what it is, so we can lead up to the great, big, cool reveal. And this monster keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's destroying all of these cities. And I'm talking, now it's getting to where it's like in the atmosphere a little bit. And it's still getting bigger and bigger, and now it's kind of floating in space, and it starts eating the Earth. This is toward the end of the movie.
Okay.
And so all of them are driving around. They're trying to stop it with their machine guns and stuff, and it's not working, and it's biting chunks of the Earth out and, like, killing all these people, and it's doing it. And then Vin Diesel, he goes, I think we need to press the button. And he pressed the button, and then his car shoots up in the air, and he starts flying around in space. And then there's a quick little cutaway, so you see when he turns, and it's very little explained, that fire shoots out, so you can be like, oh, that's how they steer.
Yeah,
but we don't really follow the laws of physics at all. And he starts flying around in space, and he's shooting the monster and stuff. And then they all come out, and they're flying around in space, and they're like, and they're attacking this beast. And then the beast, one by one, starts grabbing all of them and eating them. And then he eats the entire Earth. So the guy's big, and they're all flying around. They're like the only humans left, and they're fighting this thing. And he does it, and then Vin Diesel gets eaten, and then the screen goes white. And then you hear kind of like a low purring sound, like of a sweet, sweet GT, or whatever car he drives.
Okay, yeah.
And he's driving, and then it kind of zooms out, and you see that he's in a car, and everything is white. And he's driving and driving, and then he looks to his left out the car, and he sees Paul Walker driving beside him. And then he sees, the girl, whatever her name is, and he keeps driving, and the camera keeps revealing, like, the whole squad is there, and everyone's driving around on the highway of heaven. And then you hear, one of the girls is like, but Dom, and then boom, he wakes up. He's in a hospital bed, and the whole squad is around. Isn't Ludacris in those movies?
I think so.
I think it's Ludacris. That'll come in later. And we're almost done with the movie, but there's still quite a bit to go. So then the whole squad is there, and they're around his hospital bed, and then they proceed to explain how one of them had like an interdimensional device, and when they were all swallowed, he was able to use the device and create a new dimension where Earth is fine and everything's fine, but Dom had to be like in a coma. Something real stupid that doesn't really make any sense.
Like the Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah. And mind you, the scene where they're flying around is like a half hour at least.
Yeah.
And it's just them flying around in space. So then that all happens, and then he's like, well, where are we? And then they're like, well, we're on a rocket ship headed to some planet. They're like, Staco 9 or something, the outer system of the Placato system. And he's like, okay, and he gets up and he starts looking around, and then they go into the hangar of the ship, and they have all their cars, and they have all these huge rockets on them.
Yeah.
And then they start talking about how there's all these monsters on this planet that they need to kill, so we're setting up the sequel. And then as they drive away, they all get again, it's on a big shuttle rocket that they're flying, and then the camera pans out to a wide shot, and the camera's headed toward this new planet. And before that, they all get food on the plane, and then Ludacris, as it is the last shot of the movie, and they're flying away. He says you hear him open his food, and he goes, "Huh." And I thought airplane food was bad.
Oh,
and then
classic.
It cuts, directed by whoever, and that's the end of the movie. That's Fast and Furious 9.